the cold. And yes, various guests, obviously, that I've had in the morning, and still having, obviously, more guests in studios this morning. I did get to make mention that, we'll be able to discuss with Ambassador Emmanuel Mwamba joining me on set this morning. Ambassador, we are delighted to have you on Issues in the News today.
Thank you very much, and good morning to our dear listeners across all platforms.
Awesome. Let's start our discussion, Ambassador, like this. Just recently, of course, we got to know that, you're also in line to becoming, the Patriotic Front president. And that in itself, obviously, for some of us, obviously, we're thinking, oh, wow, this is interesting. Let's see what Ambassador has to bring to the table when it comes to politics. We know that you're a politician, but of course, we had never visioned or maybe we've never imagined to say, maybe he might be interested to be the president of the Patriotic Front, which is the biggest opposition party, by the way.
Well, thank you very much. The Patriotic Front is a reservoir of leaders. And when the party invited applicants to stand to show interest, express interest in the position of the presidency, a position that might become vacant as soon as we hold the general conference. As you are aware, our current president is President Edgar Chagwalungu, who's actually now on recess. He's taken a back seat. He gave directives that there should be an acting president who he appointed as Honorable Given Lubinda, our vice president of the party. And he also gave some powers to the acting secretary general to then, Honorable Nixon Chilwangwa, then to organize a general conference that then should elect a party president. In the Patriotic Front, only the general conference can resolve the issue of presidential leadership. So I applied, paid the 200,000 kwacha nomination fee, the expression of interest fee that was, I'm among the 8. There is Honorable Maur Sampa Matero MP, there is Brian Munduvile, the MP from Porokoso and leader of the opposition in Parliament. There is Greyford Monde, former Deputy Minister of Livestock. We have Dr. Chitalu Chilufya, former Minister of Health. We have Mutotwe Kafuaya, who's the current MP for Lunte constituency in Porokoso, but also former Minister of Transport. We have, is there anyone I've left out? Yes, Honorable GBM, our former Minister of Defense. He later went to the UPND, was Vice President and running mate to Mr. Hakainde Hichilema in 2016 elections. We have Honorable Chimba Kambwili, former Minister of Information, former Minister of other portfolios, and he also was at one time NDC President, but he came back to the party. You can see the 8 of us are all powerhouses in our own right. So I'm Emmanuel Mwamba, as our dear listeners know. I served as official spokesperson for the former president, Dr. Chiluba, in retirement at the time for a period of 10 years. I served as permanent secretary in Northern Province. I served as permanent secretary in Eastern Province. I served as permanent secretary in Western Province. I served as permanent secretary at the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting Services. At the time, it's now called Ministry of Information and Media. Then I served for 4 years as ambassador in South Africa, Zambia's High Commissioner to South Africa. I also now served as later as ambassador to Ethiopia and permanent representative to the African Union, permanent representative to the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa. I'm a journalist by profession. I'm a banker by profession. I started my life as a banker. I'm a new one in peace and security studies. This is Emmanuel Mwamba.
What decorated, a CV there, I must say. Now let's get to you, of course, vying for the position of president in the Patriotic Front. And I know some critics have said, wow, there are quite, a huge list of people. And you've mentioned clearly to say, wow, there's a powerhouse candidates that are there. And as a party that is in the opposition, the party that has been in government before, we know that, of course, after the convention, there can only be one president. What happens in an event where things don't go your way? Are we going to see the same Emmanuel Mwamba, passionate about the Patriotic Front, passionate about Zambia at large?
So there's a great persuasion to our members, by all of us, 8. For me, every time my members call me and ask me why I'm different from the rest, they said, look, I bring to the table massive experience, local and international experience. I bring to the table integrity. I have distinguished myself, especially in the last 20 years that I've served in public service, that I can handle public resources. I was a controlling officer for many years. I can handle public resources without looting it, without abusing it, without stealing it. I bring to an office service. All I do is serve our people. I think that's God's way of using all of us. I am an ordinary young man who the Lord raised to serve mankind. And I've demonstrated that in every office I have held, it's about the people. It's never about me. It's never about my intelligence, my brilliance, my commitment to work. It's never about all that. Those are just virtues that come to help our people. I think that God raised me and promoted me in all these positions just to serve mankind and his people. And that's what I bring to the fore. I don't say I'm the brightest, because God can use any vessel. God can use, a vessel like Moses, who's an old man. When Moses was at his best, when he was 25 years old, he thought he was ripe and ready. And he thought that he could then, emancipate the people of Israel. And God said, no, you're not ready. It's not enough that you are young. It's not enough that you have the energy. Leadership requires that there are many, many facets that come together. And I think that at this moment, all the facets that's required to lead this country have come together. And I always tell the Patriotic Front that you have to be very alert that a leader you pick is a leader who can win you elections. You have to look at the demographics of your voters. You have to look at the needs of the voters. And you have to look at the current president, President Hakainde Hichilema. And then pick a leader who will march head to head with President Hakainde Hichilema in everything, whether it's in understanding of the economy, compassion to help our people, transformational, to be revolutionary enough to change this country for the benefit of our people, experienced enough not to make the mistakes like the ones we are seeing. You need a leader who's God-fearing, who, when you fear God, you respect his people. So you need all these qualities. It's not just enough to pick a candidate who's popular in the Patriotic Front. Great. But can that candidate win you an election in 2026? And I stand as such a candidate.
Awesome. Ambassador, let's get to look at, the many issues that have happened, prior to, the Patriotic Front leaving power. So much that has happened from 2021 up to today, 2022, when Patriotic Front left. And I know you've been, quite up to date with what is happening. The issues that I'll bring on the table here is the style of governance of the UPND for the past 1 year, plus some months.
We have a disaster. Just this morning, I've written a piece because ZCCMIH and First Quantum Minerals have announced that ZCCMIH will literally sell its shares in Kansanshi mine. Now, Kansanshi is a gold mine. It's just not a copper mine, it's also a gold mine. And I've expressed worry. I said Article 210 of our Constitution of the Republic of Zambia, Sabbatical 2, was included in our Constitution that any sale of any state assets, any transfer of any shares, any decision to dispose of those assets require that you get and obtain 2/3 majority from Parliament. Not just a single vote, not just a simple majority vote, 2/3. That's what Article 210, Sabbatical 2, states. This article was brought in the 2016 constitution because of our fears, the people's fears on the leadership. They saw that you can have a leader who has 225 national assets in state-owned enterprises, in companies, and that leader can actually sell them without people's input. So we saw under Frederick Chiluba, where there was a privatization program, and where 225 companies were sold, privatized, liquidated, 225 companies, and there were far-telling effects to the state of our country. The rate of unemployment you see now is as a result of those decisions of privatization program. The rate where our country was deindustrialized, where you don't have industries, where our manufacturing sector died, is arising from that privatization program. Because there was a promise that government has no business in government, therefore the manufacture or baking of bread, manufacturing of tires, of cars, of everything will be done by the private sector. Including your national carrier was sold on the understanding that that's a space that to be taken over by the private sector. And that was not to be. The private sector will only go in an area where there is a lucrative investment. In fact, there are only few sectors that out of the 225 companies that thrived was just, Lafarge, Chilanga Cement, Zambia Sugar. You can count them on your pulse. And where there was replacement technology, national airline, no airline came. You've seen one airline come after the other. So when I saw that announcement by JCCMIH and First Quantum Mines, I raised alarm. I said, first of all, the president has no powers. JCCMIH have no powers to engage themselves in such a transaction without government taking such decision to Parliament as a result of our new constitution. Whilst he was in Livingstone, the president announced, you've seen the video, you saw on TV, announced that he's selling the presidential jet. I've raised the alarm, I've said, Mr. President, you can't. That is a state asset. You have no powers to sell that jet without first seeking presidential parliamentary approval of up to 2/3 majority vote. There is a constitution in place that requires that that jet be sold only after he has obtained consent from Parliament. On the jet, we can just discuss briefly. It was bought, there's a contract, it's in public domain, which shows that the contract was signed in April 2017. It shows that the jet was bought at a price of $70 million. It shows after the Israel defense systems to be installed. So that jet is just not your ordinary civilian jet. It's literally like an air fighter. It's like your jet fighter military aircraft. It was transformed because it has air defense mechanisms. It carries missiles under it. It carries flares to deflect heat-seeking heat-seeking missiles that can hit at the jet. It can land even in zero visibility. So it has those technologies that were added at the cost of $50 million. The total came to $120 million. The president says they've spent up to $193 million on the jet. I would like to ask him for the breakdown so that we understand how it came to 193. But if you look at the contract, which is in public domain, it shows that $120 million was spent on that jet. The contract is between the Zambian government and Ministry of Defense on one side and an Israel company called Elbit Corporation on the other, which procured this. This jet is as a result of a debt. We should remember that. The debt was financed by Israel Development Bank. So we didn't buy it cash. We obtained a loan from this bank to buy the jet. So I've cautioned the president that he should be very careful before he sells the jet. And when you do, there's an application called Flight Radar. It tells you where every registered plane in the world is. when you click on it, the jet is in Dubai. We are worried. Is it at the market? Is it being auctioned? Has it gone for service? It's a military aircraft, but information is there available on internet.
Right.
You can't hide anything now.
Right.
And our caution, Makateka, tema sampo tefyonse fya kusampuisha. Mwaisa, mwasanga ama shares ze CCM has in Kansanshi mlefo kusampuisha. Mwasanga jetu munenu wachitile mlefo kusampuisha. This country is far, far now more sophisticated than it was before. If previous leaders could get away with that, this leadership, our leadership, will not get away with the many things that previous leaders have gotten away with. So that is my caution to the president. You asked a very important question, and I took time to just attend to those two key issues. First of all, the last 1 year has been a disaster. We've had no medicines, no medical supplies, and no laboratory agents in our hospitals and clinics and health centers. You cannot take a test at UTH, Ndola Central Hospital, or any other, because the reagents were not available. You couldn't do a full blood count. Doctors couldn't know what you are suffering from because our lab literally collapsed the last 1 year. Similarly, there was no medicine. They have to issue a prescription. The Ministry of Health, through its permanent secretary and through the minister, have repeatedly said the medicine is available. Our callers, our people will tell you that there is no medicine. The other day when I was, I received a call from someone who was at Matero. And he says it's very frustrating to hear government says we have medicines. But I'm here at Matero Level 1 Hospital. My father is dying. There's no medicine. They've asked us to do this test. We had to do them at a private hospital. They've given us prescriptions for us to buy the medicine. We have to go to private hospitals. And I don't have money. My father is dying. I don't have money. When you go to the cancer disease hospital, where again you have all these serious challenges. So the 1 year has been disaster in the medical sector, where our people interact with government at first level. It's at our hospitals, healthcare clinics and health centers or whatever facility is. Another sector where our people interact with government is especially at Ministry of Agriculture. Our people are in full season. And you've heard the numerous reports that there's just no fertilizer. And there's no science to it. Because government ended this procurement system at the end of September. That was extremely too late. Because when does a supplier organize finance? Remember, this is a bulk commodity. Government is spending $329 million total to the 6 companies to bring in this fertilizer. They are bringing in 307,000 metric tons of fertilizer. So there was no time to arrange the finance. There's no time to identify and find the commodity and bring it in the country. There is some tonnages here and there that have been available as leftovers from last year's season. And there is some, fertilizer that was being manufactured by United Capital Fertilizer. You should understand that there's no capacity to manufacture fertilizer in this country. What we do is blending, whether it's by NCZ or by United Capital Fertilizers. So even then, they require the raw materials, whether it's NCZ or that company. There was just no time. What we are being told are mere stories that there is fertilizer. There will be some fertilizer. There will be one truck that will be delivered to Livingstone. There will be one truck that will be delivered to Chipata. There will be one truck. But you have to look at the requirement. You have 1.1 million smallholder farmers who require this fertilizer. And by their own calculation, we require 307,000 metric tons of fertilizer. And it's not available. Season is going. We are now in December. This farming season started on October 24th. And today is 2nd December. And fertilizer is still not available. And the little that is available, cooperatives are being forced. There was a report this morning from Luingu where a cooperative of 71 members are expecting 490 bags and they've been given 9 bags. What are they supposed to do with 9 bags?
So now on fertilizer,
Nishima meda, wala kana pambale na mtuma meda, mtuma bucket.
On fertilizer, Ambassador, not too long ago, it must have been a fortnight ago, like 2 weeks ago, when the minister, in Parliament said that some of these challenges that are there, it's just that the UPND government is open and is able to hear what people are saying, but some of these challenges go as far back as the Patriotic Front time. Farmers would still share fertilizer.
Never.
He was saying that.
Never. You never saw a report of any farmer sharing fertilizer in a meda. You never saw that. At least the 4 bags or the 6 bags arrived to a farmer. Whoever was on the list, the UPND may say, no, you put PF cadres. They might accuse us of such things, but they will not accuse us that we didn't deliver the fertilizer. In fact, you saw in many cases, President Lungu commissioned April, May, the fertilizers were countrywide, in sheds, in warehouses, in districts and provinces. And you saw the President commission in May, in June, the distribution of fertilizer. This government was commissioning in October, when already the farming season was in place. And even the procurement of the fertilizer has been affected, like the procurement in medicines, by one simple reason. President Hakainde Hichilema accuses some suppliers of being Patriotic Front. So he's suiting the procurement process to exclude those people he thinks are Patriotic Front, contractors, suppliers, and providers of goods and services, which is totally unfortunate. There is no businessman worth his salt who is PF or who is UPND. Businessmen work with the government of the day. They just exploit the opportunities that are available before government. Remember, government is the biggest provider of goods and services. A large chunk of your national budget goes to procuring goods and services and works. So to accuse our contractors, our suppliers of being PF is totally unfair. All they do is familiarize themselves with the system so that they can obtain that business. So here you are willing to break the country, literally willing to break the country just to remove those contractors and suppliers. So you have this collapse of the agricultural sector, you have this collapse of the health sector for those 2 primary reasons, where you literally sacrifice in the agricultural sector food security for next year. You sacrifice food security for our country to earn a living. You've endangered their lives next year.
So now with what has transpired, with the distribution of farming inputs, like you've said, it's highly, or should I say, it's likely that Zambia might have, we might have shortages of food and the like, or maybe literally we'll see the cost of, the commodity, for instance, like milling go up next year beyond where it is today, because farmers would have started their activities, the farming activities, a bit late.
We already have a crisis because the reservoir that the PF left in 2019, 2020, 2021, most of it has been subjected to exports for various reasons. FRA needed money to clear the outstanding farmers that haven't been paid, so it has been exporting. Also, it needs to prepare the sheds to be empty so that the new harvest anticipated in the 2022-2023 harvest can then come in. But the price of meal meal is very high, over 170 kwacha per 25 kg of meal meal, one of the highest. People complain, they call your radio station every day. Ubunga mwe bantu bakwalesa umutengo okwete ukalamba ubunga na budula nga banyanje fe balanda. The price of sugar is very high, the price of cooking oil is very high. The cost of living is extremely high. But these are falling on deaf ears. And these decisions that were made just to disenfranchise Zambian suppliers in the agricultural sector for fertilizer will have a telling effect next year. And it's not enough to disrupt the value chain. They are disrupting it even further by excluding certain people on the list. They just can come up and say, no, you are PF, you shouldn't be on the list. They've made cooperatives with no history of just cadres, of UPND cadres, and they want these cooperatives to benefit from the CDF. They want these UPND cadres disguised as cooperatives to benefit from the fertilizer scheme. Again, you are disrupting a working system that our people benefit from, and you are just throwing them in the streets. Let me discuss the issue of FISI program just briefly. Let me just trace its history. We need to recognize that in 1991, when President Chiluba came into office, he was told, abolish, this is an IMF program, abolish NAMBOD. You don't need NAMBOD, you don't need government to buy maize, distribute seeds, let the farmers fend for themselves, the private sector will come in. Within 3, 4, 5 years, we had a huge crisis. Our food security was highly compromised. We began to eat yellow maize for the first time, if you remember 1992, 1993, because of those decisions. By 1997, especially after the full-fledged privatization program was coming to an end, we saw that we had spent and sent a lot of Zambians on the street. Unemployment rate just shot up, especially from the formal sector. So government introduced as a social safety net under Ministry of Community Development the program for FISI program. They didn't call it FISI program at the time. It was just to help, especially with the rise of rural poverty, in light of the economic changes that had taken place. Right. They began to provide to the most poor, people that were viable, to give them some fertilizer. And we saw our food security began to improve because our food is grown by ordinary people. By 2003, under President Mwamba, but still under the MMD, he recognized that the program was working very well, not just as a social safety net, but it was guaranteeing food security. And he ramped it up. He brought it now under Ministry of Agriculture. Because remember, it was a poverty alleviation program. But now he brought it under production. And you see over the period, by 2007, the FISI program is now a fertilizer support program, FSP, and it is very, very successful. And 2008 to 2011, under Rupiah Banda, the program now was a full-fledged. Under Patriotic Front, Mr. Sata recognized that this program is very good for our people. He increased fertilizer support from, they were spending something like $50 million to $100 million. They now included inputs. You are not just giving a farmer fertilizer, but you are now giving them guaranteed seeds so that the farmer then, could have a good yield. So it was three-pronged. It was attending to rural poverty for our smallholder farmers. It was guaranteeing that they'll produce under a 5 lima some crops and they will have excess to sell to food reserve agents. That's another matter. In 1993, 1994, after abolishing NAMBOD and recognizing the crisis that our food security was highly threatened, we formed the Food Reserve Agency to provide for strategic reserves. So the Food Reserve Agency was given, looking at our annual consumption of maize, was given to reserve up to 500,000 tons, 500,000 metric tons of maize to buy from our smallholder farmers. Oh. By 2011, that program was now fully transformed. FRI was no longer being made to buy just for strategic reserves. It was buying from all our farmers. Sometimes they will have in stock of 1.1 million metric tons, 2 million, 3 million metric tons. The export that President Hakainde Hichilema and his government are doing is as a result of that maize that we've been holding and stocking. The FISI program is no longer a program just as a poverty alleviation program. It's a production program that's allowing our smallholder farmers to produce for our country, to be able for FRA to export to DRC, to Tanzania, to Angola, and anywhere else.
So now, still on FISIP, Ambassador Mwamba, of course we've been told that this government needed to change a few components in it, because previously FISIP only benefited those that were in good books with the government of the day, and the actual program was created to empower farmers and not to have the same farmers on that particular program, but not until when they grow. But then previously only the
poverty alleviation program.
What was the period? Was it
2 years, two farming seasons?
Okay.
And when government recognized it was not necessary to remove the farmers from that list, what you needed was to increase whoever was available. So that's why the number rose from 100,000 beneficiaries to 200,000 beneficiaries, to 500,000 beneficiaries, to the current one where the UPND found them at 1.1 million. So instead of excluding some farmers, it was important that you grow the list. And I would encourage the government not to look at this program as, as a poverty alleviation program, but to look at it as a production mechanism for us as Zambia to feed the region and to feed Africa. You have a small country like Ukraine. It goes to war with Russia, and the whole world is starving. Africa has been affected more. Why can't we be a Ukraine? Why can't we grow the wheat? Why can't we grow the maize that the world has been starved of? Zambia is capable of doing that. But as usual, our technocrats and politicians think differently, and that's why some of us are offering leadership that there is no need to exclude anyone. Don't say this farmer has been on this program for the last 20 years. That farmer has reliable income and he has allowed you to export as government. And you as FRA export at far higher price than the farmer gives you. You make huge profits from the labor of the farmer, from the sweat of the farmer. So don't even complain. For me, if they are saying these 1.1 million are PF, I want another 1.1 million who are UPND, so that we have 2.2 million beneficiaries, so that we grow the maize and export to across Africa.
So, Ambassador, we'll end the year knowing that the UPND, did get to recruit 30,000 teachers, did get to recruit 11,000, health workers, and they gave our learners free education. And those are the milestones that, they want us to still say they've done something and they are yet to do things.
Yeah, as usual, many callers say no, Mwamba, UPND, just like you are saying. That's a recruitment. It's not job creation. It's recruitment. So you are simply filling the vacancies that have existed for various reasons. Either the wage bill remains too high, there are internal mechanisms that have to be done by both Ministry of Education, Ministry of Health, what we call PSMD. This is Public Service Management Division that manages the staff for our workers. These are called recruitments. So they are mere replacement. That's why you'll have recruitment in the army. Because in the army they have a plan every 7 years. I mean, a soldier can only be in the army for 7 years. You know that. So every cycle there is a huge number of soldiers that are completing that 7-year cycle, and you have to replace them with fresh one. Because the soldiers, you require young people. You can't have old people as soldiers. So the technocrats and big professionals like those that they call commissioned officers, those run the army. They run a war. Huh? But the actual soldiers, who is on the ground, who carries a gun, has to be extremely fit. So they will not have an old man like Emmanuel Mwamba as a soldier. No, because will you run? Will you crawl? Will you stay without food for 3 days? So those are recruitment. It's not job creation. I like what Dr. Chitalu Chilufya said in Parliament the other day. He gave the statistics that between 2017 and 2021, Ministry of Health recruited 35,000 health workers. They've recruited 11,200 and they want us to clap. We recruited 35,000. And the trouble with the PF, it never sang its own songs. It never, the way the UPND is behaving, even when the president just wakes up, they want all of us to clap that the president has woken up. So the PF were very slow to celebrate their own achievement. Under Ministry of Education, the PF employed, 40,000 workers. but it was a period of four years. They employed 40,000 teachers in a period of 4 years. But they were not quick to celebrate like the UPND are doing. When the UPND just increased CDF, which never even arrives, you know, out of 25.7 million, only 5.6 million was released. And out of 5.6 million, only 4% of that 5.6 was used. It's not different from what the PF used to release, if you look at the numbers. But the UPND wants us to celebrate. So I've become reluctant to celebrate their achievement, because in many cases, those achievements are not really achievements. When they attend to the economy, when the price of fuel goes down, I'll cheer them on. When the price of fuel, price of milk, price of sugar, price of milk go down, I'll cheer them. When our people will have jobs, the young people that are loafing up jobs, I'll cheer them on. To cheer them in failure will be to encourage them to fail further. So there has been no job creation. These are recruitment, normal recruitment under government. Maybe they were supposed to do 2,000, they've done 10,000. Yes, it's just normal recruitment. We still have vast vacancies in government. Because remember, this country is so vast. That's why we bothered to build schools and hospitals and health centers where they are not. They have, all those places have to be filled by required manpower. And those teachers and the nurses that are training will find the space, because the PF did the biggest heavy lifting. They took a hospital to Sesheke, to Shangombo. They took up to 650 health posts across the country. They took 99 brand new district hospitals that didn't exist. They took over 69 mini hospitals. And they upgraded those so-called clinics into level hospitals, whether it's level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, they were upgraded. They require manpower. That's why we have to look at the production. We have to look at our national budget. Can we still absorb more? Because the facilities have been created.
All right. This is, issues in the news on Live Radio, and we have Ambassador Emmanuel Mwamba joining us this morning on the program. So in case you'd love to be a part of our discussion, you are at liberty to do so. The number to use to get through to us is 0977 624270, 0977 624270. The phone lines are officially open right now. In case you want to be a part of our discussion, you're at liberty to call in. You can also send us that WhatsApp voice note on that very number. Just simply start with your name as well as where you are. Then you can give us that contribution. So let's get to the calls right now. We start with this one here. Good morning. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning. Hello.
Hello, Mwamba Mishan.
Karame Sabarishani.
Okay, the line is not very clear. Kutuma serako somewhere so that tumfwe win a win. Hello? All right, please try to call us back and see if maybe you'll be much clearer when you try to get through again. 0977 624270, 0977 624270. Alternatively, you can reach us on WhatsApp as well. Good morning. Good morning to you, sir. Who do you have on the line? Hello, good morning. We can hear you.
Yes, this is Samuel Mangala, senior citizen.
Yes, Mr. Mangala, good to have you here.
Thank you very much. Honorable Mwamba, good morning, sir.
Envo Mwangala Mchwani.
Nani ketere shango. Tarape aba sata mayo doni mo.
Yeah. Manyando, Kimanyando.
Kimanyando Odisha. One thing I like about Honorable Mwamba, you are so knowledgeable on issues, whether it's civil services, politics, you are almost an all-rounder. Let me just say that.
Yes.
I've known you for some time, and I cannot doubt your skills of leadership. Having gone around the country, Secretary, Western, that's what everybody talked about the civil service.
Yes.
Me, when I hear your voice, I know our information that will not only be helpful to me, but everybody who is listening. That is what is expected of a leader. So for you to have given up yourself for the leadership of this part of the peers, I'm most grateful to you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
What is even more interesting to me is the existing unity among your colleagues that are actually vying for the Senate. What I will ask you to do is to continue this unity among yourselves. But we know who is actually going to be the leader of our party. The convention is going to decide. But already people are talking. And when they hear voices such as yourself, people are excited. Me as a PS member, I'm excited. Because I know this person will no longer be the same. There's something will change. That's going to change. So please continue talking. Look at wherever you go now, there is too much suffering in this country. And people are not pretending. What they are saying is what is real. That's what is on the ground. We have really been joined by a lot of UPND that have joined here in actually complaining, condemning the current government. So I can only hope that you continue doing it. Please don't get tired. Continue coming on the radio. We love you. Me, I know that what I'm talking about you. I'm talking about the person that I've known for too long. I'm most grateful. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mungala. We appreciate your submission. Let's get to bring in some more calls here. 0977-624270. That is 0977-624270. Issues in the News is what you're listening to right now, and we have Ambassador Emmanuel Mwamba joining us as we discuss a number of pertinent issues as well. So in case you want to add your voice as well, you are at liberty to do just that. Do get to come through on WhatsApp as well. You can send us that direct message as well, which we'll be able to read on air. Good morning. Hello, good morning.
Hello.
Good morning, sir.
Bravo,
Tulife bwino bachana bena mkwai tulanda banani.
Bravo, kati mkwenda mkwai.
Mkwai ba mufat twa misengera.
Ya tokera sana ndiko kulanda kuli ambassador yesu.
Mkwai ba mufat.
Program ni tendere ile sika. And it is true. Singa tatego kutila kuteko kuteko. Ndio ndio mna ndio mna simona. Pero que estamos tirando la punta como a punto. Pero la tuna no le queda la bomba da. Al punto la por un urenga. Pero ya que te me la punta que te me cara la. No te me diga que la más ya tu cara la cara. La cara está la mano funda la. Pero ya que te me puede pasar que tu cara más la mano de la cara unda paga. Cuando te me la educación, la bomba para la de
We appreciate your call there. You can also be a part of our discussion. We're still picking up your calls, and we still want to hear from you. And in case you want to do that, just that, the phone lines are open right now. Do get to come through as we get to hear more. Good morning. Hello, good morning. Hello. Hello, sir. Good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
Doing all right. Who do we have on the line?
Very fine. This is Mr. Mlenga.
Mr. Mlenga, we're glad to have you here. We have Ambassador Emmanuel Mwamba in studio. Talk to us.
Kanabe sabadisha nini?
Na kuchama na wewe.
Nditayama.
Kwena ba Mwamba imwele ba mayo ba mipangile mba twapokelera pakyalo pano bali ipuishe okutira mwana nshi afiyelwe kwa bana Mwamba batire mwaume
emkwayi
kyakine muri baume
iyo Natasha sana, thank you very much.
mulelandira kufwebalanda fwebashapate shuri bantu bamatimu munena ngumifino buteko bulelandesya free education bantu nangufe muri ba MMD West Africa muri ba PF mwene takwaji mwana wale from grade 1 to grade 7 wonse bandesambira fere amahala bandesama uniform number free education ibeshire balekosha ninde firo ku uniform Mwambe cyabo nacyona nacyona ke cyakuchimo mwe akwete kwa maka ya kulanda ngo mfobu nangani mwagatu ibara mukose chindi cyo nate mwakulimwe muri bamwe bababye bayite abale bishobora intunguru ya PF
emkwayi
nomba mukulanda kwenu kamuleba mukalata kumfiko kutimwe namupata abo bambi mulefase mwe Muleka kubote chuyo sokola chuko tukaya ku conference kukaya fuma
Mtungurushu
wala tungurula PF.
Hello?
Oh, we lost Mr. Link.
Okay, yeah, I think...
but we got the gist of what he was saying.
Exactly. All right, so now...
Can I answer these
please
three?
Please
yeah. Samuel Mwangalali, Utumes Shangwe, I'm grateful for your contribution and for your words of encouragement. Moffat says this government is a government of speeches. They just talk. The PF, whatever its weaknesses, but you could see they were building a road, they were building a hospital, they were building a bridge, they were building an airport. You can see, whatever you accuse the Patriotic Front, but you could see their works. They were building dams. They were delivering fertilizer on time. So, why don't you work like the PF? There's nothing you are doing. In Sala, Muchalo, Chipo, na ikule in Sala, and what are you doing about it? And that's a question of Moffat. Umufundo, takudi. Umuti mufpatala, tamudi. Honorable Sylvia Masebo keeps on telling us that there is medicine, that it's been resolved. It's just propaganda by the PF. You cannot do, let me emphasize, you cannot do propaganda with the economy. Pantu in Sala ni pamala. Does someone have money today? Can they buy that meal today? If they go to hospitals, and not everyone is under NEMA. Not everyone is under NEMA. Well, this is what we are saying. So you cannot have propaganda with the economy, unfortunately. You cannot. Because it's felt by our people. You know. Bamlenga Natasha sana. You know, Natasha sana. And primary education, you know where the disaster is with this free education? The goodness is that the children, yes, can come to school. But, you know, there are not enough desks, there are not enough teachers at the moment. You have classrooms of up to 120. It's good someone read from that contribution of 200 kwacha, up to 1 million. But Mwaba Pela, very little money. A school that used to generate 1.2 million kwacha, you give it 300,000 kwacha. How will it run the school? You know, so there are those issues with free education. Similar with CDF, I've just stated that CDF is resorting to buying equipment. You have to be very careful. Every MP wants to buy a yellow equipment. They want to
for the department post in paper until you almost appointed as ambassador to South Africa, then also special representative report.